Hello everyone and welcome back to the Cyclocross Social Podcast. Today we're going to be discussing the fifth round of the UCI Cyclocross World Cup, which took place in Antwerp. And with me here to discuss a vintage performance of Mathieu van der Poel is Issam.
Yes, thank you for having me.
I'm coming to you here from the parking lot of the Antwerp World Cup, looking out on the course. I can see just about the red lights of the finish arch from here. It was a busy day, probably not as busy as I had expected, considering this was the season start of Wout van Aert, but nonetheless a great turnout. Probably it helped that the course here is much larger in the venue, therefore has a higher capacity than in Namur last week, but it was definitely another nice day out. The Christmas season is getting underway. Our sprint is starting, Issam. 12 races. Are you, first of all, looking forward to recording that many podcasts? And second of all, maybe a more serious question, which race in the Christmas period are you looking forward to most?
Looking forward is I think not really the right way to describe it, but I think it's of course it's interesting, it's exciting in a way as well, and something I love to do in a way. You're talking about cyclocross, so sure there is some level of excitement for that, and I think we are in for an incredible couple of races that are coming up. I mean, you just kind of gotta hope that it's going to be, not all a bore fest in a way, and that there are also going to be some exciting races. But with that amount of races that we're going to have in such a short amount of time, it will almost guarantee that there will be at least one or two races that will be quite exciting, and I hope for more. But yeah, it is what it is. We have to deal with it, and it's, the riders are probably having a tougher time getting through all these races, but they can skip one or two, and we are not able to do so. So yeah.
Well, I don't think we ever really complain. It's always a fun period and it really gets us going for the month of the championships. But it's definitely a bit of an overkill, this many races, like 4 days in a row. Then it's Christmas off, another triple header with Dendermonde. Then we have another quadruple header to finish it off. And I think mainly the point why I'm semi-critical is not because I need to record a podcast or want to record a podcast. It's more because I think for the riders, it just forces them to sacrifice start money, sacrifice prize money from the overall series. They're forced to make these decisions because it's just not sustainable. And that, I think, is the biggest problem. And I think the World Cup is at this point responsible for a large part of that problem, because they have cannibalized this period, placing 5 World Cups in a period of just 2 weeks, and therefore they take a heavy toll on the calendar. But we'll get through it much easier than Niels van der Putten, who's doing almost all of these races, and it started here in Antwerp, and honestly it was a performance, well, not a bore fest I would say, but it was, at least for me, definitely what I expected. Vintage Van der Poel is what you called it earlier, and that is definitely the way to talk about this race, because Van der Poel, he lined up on the second row. He quite quickly found his way to the front already in the first lap, and unlike in Namur where he took it somewhat easier, we knew that this course suits him more. The flat, the power, bit of sand, bit of running, just physical fest of atrocious, and he, as always, doesn't really waste time. He blasted away Thibaut del Grosso, Joris Nieuwenhuis, Mees Hendricks, those were the riders in the wheel, a Dutch leading quartet, but quite quickly Hendricks went off. Then Nieuwenhuis also went off, and finally also off was Del Grosso, and from that point Van der Poel was never under any threat. He went on to take the win. His lead went out to 40 seconds. He ballooned the gap back in the last 2 laps, 24 seconds his margin of victory. For second place, a bigger battle, although Laurens Sweeck broke clear somewhat halfway through the race and quite firmly held a grip on that second place. But that was a larger group for that position, with eventually Van Aert in the mix. He got a puncture that threw another lifeline to a bunch of other riders, but it was Verstringen with Nieuwenhuis. Verstringen rode away. Nieuwenhuis punctured later, and it was Verstringen taking that place. There is, in my opinion, not that much analysis on this race. Antwerp is a very hard course this year with those sand sections. There was quite some running with the way they had set it up. The rest, straightaways, not really any elevation other than that artificial hill they have. And it just comes down to who has the most power, who is the best at running. And yes, the sand skills do play a role here, but I felt this year, and I feel we also said this last year, not as much as it has here in the past. Sweeck, riding that first sand section, definitely could use his sand skills. But The other sections with the running, definitely more of a physical sand race than a pure technical sand race. In that sense, in Mol and in Hofstade, we will probably see more of the sand skills coming to the forefront. And of course, tomorrow, Koksijde, definitely one where always how good you can ride the sand plays a role. Today, it also factored in, but I would say it was probably 60% physical strength, 30% sand, and 10% technical skills. Then you come to Mathieu van der Poel, and he takes a win.
For Van der Poel, you could see in halfway through that first lap that he was definitely not very keen of having any passengers on board his train that was heading towards at the end of the race. He wanted to be alone, and he didn't want to have any passengers with him on board. And they tried to hang on for, I wouldn't say for dear life, but they really tried to. And to be honest, if it wasn't for that mistake there on the first lap from Van der Poel, small mistake there, like in the later part of that course, I think that he was already maybe clear there, and it, he was probably going to solo there basically from the first lap, and it didn't really matter all that much eventually in how the race shaped up. We kind of expected that in a way. It just had to all happen, and it happened, and that is, it is what it is. But it was behind that, it was definitely a very interesting racing that was happening, and I think the sand played a role. It didn't play the biggest role. I think that it took a lot of energy to get through the sand if you wanted to stay riding, and running was also, I think, just a bit easier in some of the sections. And I think that still someone like Sweeck can make the difference left and right, and he had one incredible fast lap where he broke away. Maybe it costed him a little bit in the end and he slowed down a little, but it was still enough for him to maintain that gap. And I think the biggest shame in this race arguably is the fact that Van Aert punctured, because I think that if he didn't puncture, he was probably going to be able to battle it out there for a podium, and that would have been a great return, which, it shouldn't take anything away from him. That puncture played a big role in the eventual result of Van Aert, and he looked quite good. But I think overall it was great racing. Sweeck deserved that second place, and Verstringen, incredible ride. I think that he, again, has one of his better rides of this season. It has been, this season has been already a great season in his, if you look at where he was and where he is right now, I think that you can definitely say that he made a step. It is kind of in the shadows of other prominent names that we have seen this season, but it deserves some credit. He, today as well, great podium. He kind of rewards himself with the race that he has done. Circumstances helped him, because I think that if Van Aert, again, if he didn't have that puncture, he could have played for a podium probably, and then it was not going to be a podium for Verstringen maybe. So the race could have played different, but that's how cyclocross is, and he made use of the circumstances that came towards him, and took it all and made use of it. So I think that you can say that Verstringen for sure today had a very, very strong ride as well.
Yeah, I think we should circle back to Verstringen in a little bit, but about Van der Poel, a final question, Issam. After Namur, there were a little bit of doubts for some people. I think we both said we expected Van der Poel to eventually take control like we've seen it before, and it was very circumstantial. Do you still think that, or should we maybe at this point be looking more into a scenario like we had that 1 year, the Hoogerheide season, the Hoogerheide World Championships? Because then Van der Poel also started in Antwerp and everyone was like, oh, business as usual. But then there was these other races like Gavre where things went more difficult, where it, in the end, was a sign, it's not going to be as easy this year. Where do you think we are now?
It's hard to judge, but I have the feeling that in Namur it was more of it were two things that played a role there. First race back definitely played a role, and arguably as well that the course, just the amount of climbing, and it doesn't suit him all that well. I feel that with the performance like today, I don't think that there is much wrong with the form of Van der Poel. It could definitely be that he is just a little less than the way he entered last year, but I don't think it's that big of a difference, and I think that Namur is going to be somewhat the exception of what we're going to see in the next couple of races. I feel that he is, even the punctures will not stop him. He had the puncture there, rear wheel puncture, and it didn't phase him all too much. The lap times dropped there with, I think, or dropped it. It extended actually. It became, I think, like it was an 8-minute lap, over 8 minutes, while they were doing like 7:35, 7:40. So he lost there around like a 25 seconds, something like that. And you could see that he definitely suffered there, but he was in cruise control. From basically lap 4 or 5, he was in cruise control. He was just making sure that he arrived well at the finish line. And I think that there are going to be more races that we're going to see Van der Poel in such fashion, and that it will depend on how good someone like Nice is going to be at a certain course that suits him well. Because today definitely was, I wouldn't say an off day. It was just he didn't really have any weapons to fight with, and maybe in Van Aert that could grow into this season. It looks promising, and if he gets better and better, who knows? He could maybe challenge Van der Poel, and that is definitely the factor that will play the biggest role. I don't think that Van der Poel is on a level in which someone like Nice could, he needs to have everything go with him, and then also make sure that the course suits him well. And if you have all that, then it is maybe possible. But I think that Van der Poel right now is just, he's still on another level, and he's still going to be definitely very hard to beat.
Nice, definitely a contender for Osterclass of the day, because damn, that was horrible. I honestly don't know what I was seeing. Like, his start was horrendous. I think he already went to this race with the wrong mindset, like Antwerp and shitting myself the whole week. Like last week, we read the interviews. No, he can't do well in Antwerp. Don't expect anything for Antwerp. His dad saying that as well, and this easy sand section at the end of the lap, the small sand pit before you came to the hill, which led to the flyover. In the first lap, he didn't even properly make it through there. There is literally no reason that he shouldn't be making it through that there, because that's just the power, and you come in. Nice can ride sand. He's won Coxside in the junior categories. He's done some things, and sure, he's not the best sand rider, don't get me wrong, but I still think a lot of it is mental. And I was thinking back about Merckx+, and it was quite imminent to me that as soon as that mistake happened, he kind of fought back for one more lap, made another mistake, fell further back, and then it was just whatever. I'm not even going to bother anymore. Well, Sweeck takes the leader's jersey of the World Cup. It doesn't really matter. I'm not going to race tomorrow in Coxside anyway. So definitely Nice. It's a thing for the courses. He and Sweeck seem to be like opposite riders in terms of the day on which they take off, but both of them definitely have the tendency of still taking a few off days with other races in their mind. And today Sweeck was quite good, but I didn't really expect Sweeck to be able to pose a threat on this course. Maybe there is a very small chance that tomorrow in Coxside Sweeck can do it. He was good today. This is what he needed. These are the type of performances he's been getting consistently after a tough season start. He said he had some things going wrong in the build-up to the season. Now he seems to be at the level that he should be, because Sweeck is one of the top 5 paid full-time cyclocross riders, maybe even towards the top 3. So he also needs to have the results that back that up, consistently fighting for podium and wins. That's what his sponsor expects from him. And today he did just that. I don't really have anything negative to say about the ride of Laurens Sweeck, Issam.
Absolutely not. Did what he had to do in a sense, and I think he did even more than that. I was delighted to see that he was very happy and recognizes that that was a very great ride. And, with that smile on his face crossing the finish line, I think he knew. So, for sure, Sweeck today, there's not much to say on his race other than praising him for the way he raced. And I think that he definitely was smart in the sense that he didn't really try and follow Van der Poel in the sense. I think that maybe for both Nieuwenhuis and also for Del Grosso in a way, I wouldn't say that cost them their race. Antwerp is a bit of a course where if you are going to start a bit too fast, it could cost you, and it could cost you in the long run. It could be that you are maybe paying the price for a lap, and then you can recover somewhat, and you see that some riders then can get back into a certain rhythm and they find their way to the front again a little bit. Or it is something that just gradually becomes worse and worse, and then at the end of the race, you just don't have that much left. And I think that Sweeck didn't, probably felt that he had a good day, but still didn't didn't let him carry himself too much in the whole trying to follow Van der Poel. And I think that was a smart decision, and he rode a very smart race and made use of his sand skills. even dropped his chain, but he was able to put it back on and finish the race in second. I think for him today, that was first for the normal people.
Two riders for Crelan Corendon on the podium with Emil Verstringen in third. You've been quite high on his season, Issam, and what did you think today of him?
I think today is a moment where we have to praise his season and the performance that he has put so far this season overall. And yeah, I think today it was his running was quite good. The way he was going through the sand was also not bad, and he has shown so far this season that he has somewhat very good form and the shape is there. So then you can make use of that. And I think that before the season we had a little bit the whole Viseuren Verstringen kind of thing in terms of those are two riders that were almost at times we were talking about them simultaneously, like, oh yeah, you have Verstringen and Viseuren and Verstringen. You couldn't really separate them. But I think this season he separated himself from Viseuren, and I think that it has more to do with Viseuren's last couple of races. Today, not so bad. But with Verstringen, it's just been, he had some races that didn't go exactly his way. But I think overall it was still like you could see that it was consistently good. And I think today was just great. And you have to take those opportunities. And I think he took that, in my opinion, deservingly. He finished in third because he raced so well. And it's just interesting to see where he will, develop to and what his maximum capacity reach is in terms of where he can get up in terms of his performance. And that will be interesting to follow. I don't think I'm wrong with saying the fact that this is not really a course that you would associate Verstringen with all too much. You would more see him do well in those climber type of courses. But yet here we are, finishing third. So I think that is definitely a up for him. I'm just excited to see how that will develop, because I think he is, in terms of going to become, he's almost out of that whole talent kind of thing. I think he still has like a year or so where you can call him a talent. He is definitely making steps, and it will be interesting what kind of steps he will be able to make in the next couple of races, weeks, months, and years.
This isn't necessarily a Emil Verstringen course, but much like in Middelkerk at the European Championships, a lot of it came down to power. And also Kokzijde tomorrow will be a lot of power, because they've made that course so hard with so much sand and so much elevation that there are sand sections that are purely power sections. And of course, the ability to ride sand always still factors in, but this was also a race where the big engines came to the front. So in that sense, if you look at the top 10, again, Viseuren finds the best result in quite some time, because this is better than the 7th place in Kortrijk. Doctor, is there a pulse? Yes, there is a sign of life. He is apparently still going, Joran Viseuren, and he got 10th. But I can't think that's just another sign. Okay, it came down to the engines. We saw Pim Ronhaar kind of also getting into the groove. Good outing by Pim Ronhaar. And what speaks to the performance of Verstringen here isn't necessarily the fact that I was thinking for the word, like, it's not fortunate that he finished third. It speaks to his performance that he managed to hold on to that third place, despite Wout van Aert throwing a lifeline to the group behind. Because when he flatted and came back, he really pulled hard and made a big attempt. I don't know if he had another small mechanical issue or something towards the end of the race, but he really brought that group back and brought the belief back in that group that they could finish on the podium. I know you already attributed some words to that comeback of Van Aert, but I would still like to briefly say that it looked solid, but this is also an easy course to come back. A lot of it was power. We know that Van Aert, his sand riding skills are quite good, but perhaps that is also the reason why he chose his calendar the way he did, because he will mainly be racing races like this, races that don't have the potential to turn into a Gulligem. So that, I do think, is what we'll see more from Van Aert. Like I said in an earlier phase when we discussed his calendar, I don't see any reason to think why Van Aert all of a sudden would be treating cyclocross differently than he did in the previous years. That might be next year when the World Championships are in Ostende. He wants to win in front of his home crowd. But for now, I think this is pretty much what we can expect from Van Aert. He will probably take a win. He will probably get more podiums. This 7th place doesn't fully reflect that. I think makes sense that we see roughly the same type of performances, battling with the top full-time cyclocross riders, slightly ahead of them, better in terms of power, slightly weaker technical, but it's an encouraging start. And from here, without that puncture, he would have, I think, been a likely podium finisher. Probably third. Sweeck maybe a bit too strong still. His starting position will improve somewhat. He's not doing too many races, but at least, well, he's not doing that many World Cups either. So maybe his starting position won't improve. And we'll just see him needing to fight his way through the field every single race. So, yeah, I think that's where we are right now, and we'll see more of these riders in the upcoming days. There's, I think, Hofstade is the next time they face each other. I don't know from the top of my head, but that is, I think, the next time we see them go against each other. If we look at the entire top 10, Issam, Van der Poel, Sweeck, Verstringen, Ronhaar, Van der Putten, Del Grosso, Van Aert, Van Toerenhout, Hendricks and Wieseuren. Nieuwenhuis, I think, was very, very strong today, but must have had a flat late on. He was up there in the mix for the podium. Strong outing. Also like the fact that he, at least in the beginning, made an attempt to ride with the top guys. Lars van der Haar DNF today. He had a bad start in the 30s, moved his way up, and then something must have happened. But the rider I think you still wanted to point out was very briefly Del Grosso, a race with a strong start, weaker middle point, but strong finish again.
Yeah, I think that, I kind of started to talk about it a little bit in terms of if you are going too fast a little bit here on this course, you can somewhat pay the price. I don't know if that was the case with Del Grosso, but he definitely, that is the only explanation I somewhat have, apart from the fact that also in Namur we could see that his form is good, but still not good enough. And then you're maybe trying to do things you think you're capable of doing, and it doesn't really come out, and you pay somewhat the price, and it becomes a bit more difficult. But I think that his race was not bad. It is, again, a step in the right direction. He was able to shape the race a little bit in the beginning, struggled. And it's also tough because if you lose out on the position, in the race, and you go from, let's say 4th to 7th, you get stuck behind the wrong guy in the sand section, you have to run around, which you don't do. You just stay in line, and it kind of just messes it up. You have to close a gap, and that costs energy. So there were a lot of moments in the race that we kind of didn't see well because of I don't know what they were doing there with the TV director and all that, but it was terrible broadcasting in my opinion. Those are just moments in the race where a rider either loses out a little bit and has to spend more energy, because someone made a mistake in front of him. And I felt that he let himself be at the back of the group, either because he couldn't really move up or it was just a choice. But then at the end of the race, he somewhat came through, not like someone like Ronhaar, because I think that Ronhaar's last part of the race was very strong. And overall, he had a very good race, I think. It was still all right, and I think that he is definitely someone that will also grow in this period that we have most likely, and will only get better and better. So he's going to be an interesting player, and I think today as well you could see that through the sand he's not that bad. He's not that bad, so he can definitely make use of that. Technically, he's a great rider, gifted rider. So hopefully we'll see him more and more to the front, and I would almost say it's a matter of time.
Let's move to the women's race then, which also had very bad TV direction, especially in the final lap. And we were treated to one of the most entertaining women's races of the season. Lucinda Brandt didn't have a great start. It were Aniek van Alphen and Inge van der Heijden who tried to capitalize on that. Didn't work out. We had a large leading group form, including, among others, Alvarado, Pietersen, Van Anrooy, Zemanova, Casasola. But there were two stronger riders. Brandt and Alvarado broke clear with 3 laps to go. They got reeled in again, but they broke clear once more in the final phase of the race. Brandt in the final lap seemed to be stronger. She was able to ride the hill after the stairs. She broke clear but made a mistake in the back part at the skyline. Alvarado came back, made an aggressive overtake, but ultimately she couldn't compete with the raw watts of Brandt. Brandt went on to take her 11th season victory, and Alvarado came in for a much needed second place, with Aniek van Alphen coming home for third place. Another great outing by her. I definitely enjoyed this race quite a lot, Issam. like I just said in the summary, I think what made the difference here was that Brandt was more powerful than Alvarado. But for Alvarado, this was a very, very positive outing, and it should give her some encouragement for the upcoming races. And we will talk about the Van Empel absence in a little bit, but first let's go over the racing.
We have to be very thankful that Alvarado was in it, because she was the only one that was able to bring up that challenge to Brandt, and it was pointed out by the commentators in a way, and I think that I had to agree with them. We have to also appreciate a little bit the steps that Brandt has made in terms of her her technical abilities, because I think that if it was a Brandt from maybe 3 years ago, Alvarado would have won this race. Then we were not really able to say, or we could have maybe said, Brandt was very strong, but Alvarado was strong and, technically better. But now I think she's still compensating a little bit, but she definitely got a lot better. And it was, again, today that showed. She made some mistakes, but overall was all right. And that is what she needed, I guess, in the end to beat Alvarado. And Alvarado, that on the last lap, definitely knew she had to be in front. Actually, the moment you were thinking, all right, this race is done, it's over, makes a mistake, and Alvarado is then able to get around her, and then we were kind of waiting, anticipating, looking at, I thought in the beginning was a replay, but it wasn't. We were just out of cameras and waiting for the two to appear again. And there was Brandt again in front, and then you kind of knew it was not going to be it for Alvarado, but nevertheless, I don't really care who wins, but I'm just very happy that we got a race, and I think that is that was the big positive that I had from today. It was also good to see that Alvarado is on a very good way of recovering from her illness. She was saying that she still felt some aftermaths from that illness, and that it still played somewhat a role in the form that she showed today. But nevertheless, I think it was great to see that she was able to bring up that challenge to Brandt. And it was a nice race. I enjoyed it. I mean, there were already talks about is this the best race of the season? And yeah, I enjoyed it. So I was happy that it played out the way it did.
It was a good race. Maybe I would say best race of the season, although else we need to go back to SOA at the beginning. I mean, in the women's side, it's been a lot of dominations by Brandt, and now Alvarado, okay, like you're here talking, saying, I still didn't feel that fit. I don't know how you look at it, Issam, but I definitely don't see this as a typical Alvarado course either. I mean, the running today looked quite good, especially that overtake where Brandt tried to ride. Yeah, the technical skills of Brandt have improved, but I think I spent all of last season and 2 seasons ago already applauding that, and how we discussed in some situations he was better technically than Van Empel in a number of their duels. But to me, I would take a lot of encouraging signs from this for Alvarado. I just hope that she's able to consistently put this down, because that has been a bit of an issue for her in recent years. This year, it's also been different, of course, with a later start and whatnot, knee injury. So definitely factors in recent years, also factors playing in and causing those inconsistencies. But if she's able to consistently do this, and we go to a course that really suits her, and then, I mean, what courses come to mind for me? Niel, Hamme, like the real Belgian races, the real technical ones. Like Baal could be a very good course for her, but also a course like Mol. Those type of courses there, I would like to see it. I'm very, maybe I'm grasping here because I just like close racing, but I do take a lot of encouragement from this, and I would too if I was Alvarado.
It's not a surprise. I think that the key is really in what you said. Is she going to be able to deliver this time and time again? I think that is going to be the main question, and there will be for sure courses where Brandt will just be a little bit better. And I think that there will also be races in which Alvarado can, really play. It can really play more in her cards, and that is going to be somewhat the question. And I think honestly, we saw it today. We saw Van Alphen that was very eager. We saw Van der Heijden that tried, but both really kind of, they kind of ride up this wall of Brandt, and they just, it's just hard to get through. It's hard to beat. it's almost impossible to beat. She has this superiority in terms of the power, and as a rider overall, she's just better. And that is just hard. And I think that Alvarado, we kind of knew that Alvarado is one of the riders that we were waiting for, in which we knew that if she is 100% or at least close to that, and she's in good form, she can bring something to the table overall to Brandt and make it difficult for Brandt. And then that is what we saw today. Hopefully we'll see that more in this Christmas period. Today Van Alphen, especially her last part of the race, was very strong. And overall she had again a very, very strong ride. But it is, it's almost business as usual in a sense. And I think that is a very positive that we can say that about Van Alphen this season, and shows that she definitely made a step forward, and that we have already highlighted, and she has highlighted it herself with being in the lead of the World Cup that she lost today. But anyways, I think still a strong ride from her as well, rounding up that podium.
Definitely a strong ride by Van Alphen, and I would have expected Van der Heijden to do that rather than her. But Van der Heijden, the lights went out, whereas for Van Alphen, they stayed on in the second half of the race. Really good outing for her. For the rest, we saw a few other people make a move at the front of the race. We had Pieterse with an attack in the middle. She, just like last week, however, seemed to pay the price for that quite quickly. Pieterse, not really a great sand rider. I think that did factor in a little bit today. But above all, it seemed more that the race hardness was still missing. One big acceleration and immediately kind of falling back. Did repack herself relatively well. At some point I thought, she's starting to fade a lot now. That didn't really set through. And also Van Anrooij, quite similarly, very good first half of the race. Then the lights kind of went out. She made this comeback. She really was aggressive in that group, which I really like to see. She's definitely one like, okay, this opportunity is handed to me. We're back here. Then I'm also going to try and take the lead. I'm going to try and be in second, make the most out of it. But she too didn't really have the physical strength at this point to continue to push the pace and be able to respond to the attack. So definitely some encouraging signs for both of them, but you would need to see some form of further improvement, that they're able of keeping up the pace throughout the race if they're really going to challenge.
Yeah, and I think for Pieterse today, I don't know what lap it was. I think it was the lap where Alvarado had to overtake her. The running was not good either. It was painful to see, especially in the later. I think somewhere after halfway, a struggle for Pieterse to get through the running sections, and that's something you can work on, but it also kind of highlights, I guess, in a way, the condition overall. But then she was able to get through the difficult moment in a sense, so that also shows you something, I guess. So I think that for Pieterse, you can clearly see that she is still in somewhat her opening part of her rentrée, getting into the season, not so many races under her belt, so it will take some time. But I think it's promising in a sense, and I think for Van Anrooij, it's hard to judge what played a role there, but maybe you are easily carried away in a race like Antwerp, because you are somewhat close to each other in a sense. The differences are not that huge, especially on the women's side. It was not terrible in terms of the gaps, and that meant that sometimes it's only 2-second gap or something, and you go for it, you spend that energy, you try to be ahead in the sand section, and then you're like, ooh, it actually hurts a little bit, and you pay then a little bit the price. And the racing here is difficult to get through it without an overkill, without really doing too much, and not having enough left in the tank when it matters the most. And I think that was maybe a little bit the case with Van Anrooij, but I'm not gonna lie, I think that before she came back into the field for Van Anrooij, I did not expect her to be on this level already. You cannot really say so early on this season, but to be on this level at this stage of the season is definitely somewhat of a surprise and very encouraging. And it's just great to see that she is finding a flow.
Let's look at the entire top 10 then. Brandt with the win ahead of Alvarado, Van Alphen, Pieterse and Zemanova. 6th place for Shirin van Anrooij, just ahead of Sarah Casasola, Van der Heijden 8th, Bakker 9th and Leonie Bentveld in 10th. Casasola 7th. I mean, all in all, it's probably okay. Not a good start. She is really, really, really not a good sand rider. For her, this was already a lot of sand. I don't know if she's racing tomorrow. I hope for her that she has a day off. And it's interesting that we have 4 of these fast races in a row, 3 sandy races, Hofstad as well, and then Zolder. It gives a number of riders an opportunity, and Zemanova is one of them. I mean, what a performance. 5th place here. I believe that is her best World Cup finish. And it's just so good to see her back. I mean, last year completely squandered away. All the momentum seemed to be lost after getting long COVID. Really, really, really long recovery trajectory. I just can't emphasize enough, like, it's a full year she's been working to get back. And now she is back. And yes, these faster courses suit her, but this level of performance is even more than what we have seen of her before. We've seen her do very well in Zolder before, but still, like, I would take this as a massive sign of encouragement. And I hear Jurgen Mettepenning is still looking for a woman. Just imagine what a team you could form. Fukune, Zemanova, like, that's 2 top 5 contenders right there for you.
We're just going to be like try to talk him into a certain transfer at this point. But you're right. I think you're 100% right. I think that today was a great performance from Zemanova, and I think you said it. Fast course suits her well. That all helps with that end result. But I think that despite that, it's still a very, very, very solid result. And the question will now, I guess, be a little bit if that consistency can kick in a little. She is still in a phase in her career in which that is not a must, but she has to get to that point. And as you said, she had to almost recover for a full season to really get back to a certain level, and hopefully she doesn't need to look back, and she can now fully focus on what lays ahead of her. And it would be great to see that she's able to continue on with the performances, because we know that she is a very talented rider, a rider that could be up front in fighting for top 5s, fighting for maybe even potential podiums depending on starting field and form and race. So yeah, I think that is encouraging signs for sure, and I think in a way it's also what is there a better way, I guess, of starting your Christmas period? So many races that are going to follow now. I don't think there is much time to think all that much about your previous result. But man, I think the morale must be high, and then from now on it's just trying to kind of replicate it or even do better.
The morale is so important. Like, if you have a number of bad races in this period, it's super easy to stack them up on top of each other and talk yourself down. So I would argue perhaps even more than in other parts of the season, the flow and the vibe, so to speak, is important. So good start for her. I think if we go down some other results, I think Fleur Moore's 14th is a very positive result. Second U23, beating Célia Géry. For Fukune, maybe a bit of a outlier. First time this season she misses the top 10, but not a good course for her. I don't worry too much for now. We will see what the upcoming weeks bring. And then Neff 21st, I'm not too surprised. I think I said last week that it would be very difficult in the sandy courses. Then we come, I think, to the sadder news to end this episode on. Laura Verdonschot retiring at the end of the season. She's not recovered from her narrowed arteries, underwent surgery this year, very long one. They had a complication, didn't work out the way she hoped. She doesn't want to undergo that surgery again because it brings medical risks. She's retiring. Very unfortunate. Sand specialist, I think, will, as the season comes to a close, discuss her legacy a bit more. And then Fem van Empel leaving Visma Lease Bike, putting her career on hold. Of course, sad news for the fans, and ultimately, I guess, also for her, it's the right decision. Don't get me wrong. Like, if you don't have the motivation, you don't find the joy in it, then you can't continue. You hit a wall, which is what she's done. But there must also be a sense of frustration, which she alluded to in one of the quotes somewhere, about being very good at something but not finding the joy in it, which must be very hard.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it is. If you're not able to have joy in something that that you're good at, I mean the best at, um, it's just very complicated, and I think also mentally it's just very complicated to deal with. And at some point you have to make tough decisions, and I think this must have been a tough decision. Um, but you have to find some peace in mind, and try to get through it. And sometimes you need to make those decisions, and you can get stronger back from that. So in whatever field that will be, if that is going to be she's able to get back into cyclocross, that would be great. But if that is not going to be the case, that is also going to be it. And then that is unfortunately how life goes at times. And I think I think everyone in cyclocross overall wishes her all the best in the next steps that she will have to, that she will do and get through.
Yeah, certainly. And I think you said it very well. Wherever the adventure takes her is where it will take her. And yeah, I guess she, just reasoning back, hoped that the decision to come back to cross would help her like find fun in training again and enjoy it again. And it did seem to work off, but that's also a bit of the confirmation bias probably at the start of the season. So yeah, let's hope that it all ends well for her. This podcast certainly is ending here. I'm gonna start heading towards the Belgian coast for Kokzijde tomorrow. Issam, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I will say one thing: 80%. That's all I'm saying.
I was saving that for a more boring race day to complain about the 80%, but it's always a point of considering 90 starters, 90 starters in the men elite. There's 100 riders. There were the registrations. Hofstade junior men 100. This morning 90. There's a World Cup tomorrow with 80 riders in the junior category. Riders from Croatia. The Ukrainian guy from Namur last week beat like 15 riders. He honestly didn't look that bad today. So I will leave it with that. You see some nice things. I would encourage everyone, if you have the possibility, to come to cross at Christmas. And I hope that if you don't, or if you have and want some more analysis, you tune in again tomorrow when we discuss the racing in Kokzijde. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. We are back tomorrow when we discuss the 6th round of the World Cup. Halfway point already in Kokzijde. Goodbye.